Thank you for joining me today on the Garbage Bag Girl podcast. This podcast is about all of us. It's about the things and the ways that make us feel pushed down and small. It is about how the smallest acts of kindness make the biggest impact each day. No one should feel like garbage, ever. Enjoy the show. Hi, this is Celeste with the Garbage Bag Girl podcast, and I am here again with Coach Shanna. This is a very exciting day because we are talking about, we have talked about the inner child, the adolescent chair, and we've talked about the adult chair. So now we wanted to kind of bridge and bring this opportunity to talk about relationships from your healthy adult. And I put my hat on because we decided we're rolling up our sleeves, not really because I find comfort in the long sleeves, but we're putting our hat on, we're rolling up our sleeves, and we're going to do some relationship inventory today.
I like it.
So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
It's for
been
always
so
coming.
great.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how relationships are so necessary for connection and healing.
Yeah. So you said it, relationships. Relationships can be either romantic or a co-worker relationship, a relationship with your children. Just relationships in general are so necessary for connection and healing. Relationships literally are reflections. That's what relationships are. Reflections for what's going on inside of us. If we slow down and we take that in, right, from a healthy adult perspective, it can be for connection and healing. Some of the strongest relationships that we have out there with people is when we're able to communicate. I know, I've done this myself. I've had relationships, as I'm sure many of us have, that we just don't know how to communicate. And so we get reactive, we get triggered. What I like to call trigger pong. Someone gets triggered and then that triggers the other person, and then it just ends up going back and forth. Which
is usually an escalation.
It typically is. Yep.
Yeah.
And
we've all been there.
You don't have to have many skills for trigger pong. You just have to bring your wounding and your baggage to the game and you can play, right? But to communicate from your healthy adult, that is one of probably the most important thing of relationships, is communicating from your healthy adult. Now, remember, our healthy adult, we've talked about in podcasts previously, this is our conscious self. We show up consciously. We show up with patience, understanding, compassion. In our healthy adult, we can actually listen and validate and not have to be heard, not have to be seen, because we've been doing that work for ourselves. So we're able to hold that space for, again, either that coworker or a romantic partner, or even the children, our children. I hear you, honey. I see you. Right? So
that's beautiful. I was thinking that when you first got here, and we always spend time to chat and get centered and all the things that are important before we deep dive into the podcast. And I was telling you that I have to have, kind of an uncomfortable conversation for me tonight. And you asked where I was coming from, and we talked, and I realized with your help that it's my 12, 13, 14-year-old Celeste throwing a temper tantrum that I don't want to have this conversation. And as we talked about why and what was bothering me, it was really great because then I was able to come to, okay, what are the facts? Like you always say, start with the facts. The facts are this. What does this person need that I'm already being told they need? What do I need? And you start inventorying. That's why I liked when you said let's relationship inventory, because it's also about the self check-in that you always talk about. Are you checking in with yourself? And I hadn't checked in with myself. I was just throwing the fit that I didn't want to have the uncomfortable conversation, but I didn't check in with why and how I felt. Why didn't I want to have that? And so thank you for that, because now I do know why I didn't want to have it. And the healthy adult in me says, well, then this is how you need to communicate that need that you have. The throwing the temper tantrum is only going to perpetuate the fact that this person doesn't feel healed or heard, rather, because he's, working through his own healing. And that's just a place of, that's not safe to go into those conversations that way for either person.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I feel much healthier to have the healthy adult relationship conversation.
I'm proud of you for, number one, slowing down, right? And then you were aware that there was a part of you inside that was, you said tantrum. So this was the inventory. I'm slowing things down to take inventory. How am I feeling? You were feeling agitated, or someone's throwing a fit. Okay, so what does this person need?
Yeah.
Right? And then the outcome, how do I want the outcome to be? Because I care about this person, this is how I want the outcome to be.
Yeah.
What a beautiful example of that relationship inventory from your healthy adult. And your healthy adult is the only one that can do that for you. We call it buckling into our adult chair. We buckle in.
Like buckle up.
And we stay there. We got to stay in that healthy adult chair. Yeah.
So tips for staying there, if you start to have the conversation and you feel 13, 14-year-old coming up to throw a temper tantrum, how do you bring yourself back in to the healthy adult?
I can give you the tips, but I want to ask you about your experience that you just had before we came on air. What did you do? Were you aware?
I slowed down, like you
slowed
said,
down.
and I asked myself, what do I need that I'm not getting? It isn't just about this person.
Yes, so I want to start there. Slow down. If there's a conversation that you need to have with a partner or a coworker or a child, slow down.
Or all of them. Sometimes it's those weeks. Which I recognize I'm coming off of, by the way. So I had a week of needing to have an uncomfortable conversation with one of my children. Coming home, knowing I need to have, for me, an uncomfortable conversation, which is, I manifested that it would be this uncomfortable conversation. It doesn't have to be. And I know I also have an upcoming conversation with a colleague. And I think that can be a lot when, you have to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations in your whole bodies. Like you always say, how does your body feel?
Mm-hmm.
Your body's uncomfortable.
Sensations, right?
I have a sore throat. I'm not feeling well because I'm just holding on psychosomatically as well, physically, all those emotions.
Most of the time, if not all of the time, that uncomfortable feeling, again, is a reflection of what's going on inside of us, of me. I need to have this conversation with this person. It's something uncomfortable is coming up for me. So whatever the outcome is, can we sit in that healthy adult and validate them? So the point needs to be made. They need to receive it. And then how do you receive their response or their reaction, right? So if it's bothersome or uncomfortable, I'm going to take that and set it on the shelf for me to work on after the conversation. During the conversation, it's, okay, this is what needs to be had. This is what needs to be said. And here in a little bit, I took some notes down to really do partner 1, partner 2, and things that we can say to help move that conversation along. Okay. But I want to go back to your question, what are the steps to take to enter into that uncomfortable conversation? First thing was to slow down. What is it that we're trying to accomplish, right? And then you asked yourself, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
Right? That was such a huge question. And then what did you do? You remember?
What did I do? What did I say that I did?
Yeah, you had asked what do I need, what do they need in this conversation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? What's the need that is to be had?
Because it is important to me that it isn't one-sided. I really don't like those kind of conversations. It's hard to have them. It's hard to receive from them. And when that does happen, it's because I'm not feeling heard, and I'm usually the person isn't either. And then that escalation happens because maybe if I'm louder, I'm going to be heard. You're still not going to be heard. The noise isn't what makes you be heard. It's the being self-aware of the feelings. And for me, acknowledging that I do want both sides to win. I do want both sides to be heard. I do want the outcome to be that we both feel heard, listened to, and like we're moving forward.
Yeah.
From that space.
Yes. What would happen if we have two people having a conversation and one person comes to the conversation to be heard? So they're the ones that initiate the conversation, and they actually have repeated over and over and over again the same thing.
Yeah.
So this partner's like, okay, so I've heard that multiple times.
Yeah.
Why are you not feeling heard? And we go off on a track from it. Really deters what we came to talk about in the first place.
Yeah.
So this is my suggestion from your healthy adult. What do you need to feel heard? What do you need from me so you feel heard? And then wait.
Because then it puts the onus on them to tell you what they really need. You're not making an assumption. You're not trying to figure out something that doesn't belong to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a fair ask.
It's truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're important to me.
Yeah.
What can I do? What do you need from me? And again, we do this in our adult chair.
Yeah.
In our inner child work. Don't we ask this child, what do they need from me?
Yeah.
So we want to come to this conversation with our partner, our coworker.
It's not different.
What do you need? What do you need from me right now? And how, if you're wanting to feel listened, or you wanting to feel heard, this is what you're telling me. What do you need to hear from me to feel that? And then we let them talk, right? We hear them.
Okay.
So I hear you say, this is what you need from me. Is that right?
You reiterate.
That's right.
So what I heard you say.
What I heard you say.
Okay.
You did this with a conversation with a daughter of yours.
One of my children, yeah. And it was received better than I thought. Like I said to you, I am definitely with my children a drop everything and do what they need and ask. It makes me feel validated as a mom. Being responsive and showing up for them also makes me feel better in the ways that maybe I haven't. And so I take a lot of pride in almost going out of my way to make that happen, even if it wears me out, even if it takes me away from something else I should be doing, even if it takes me away from another relationship I care about. I view them as such the priority that I will go to extreme lengths, which is, by the way, not necessary, moms, not necessary to prove your love to them, just for the record. So I'm working on setting boundaries with them as well. And yeah, I told her I was not going to do something for her. And she received it and said, okay, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Like, it wasn't the interaction was healthy. It didn't escalate into anything other than that. And
that's so big.
Then when I was telling you and you said, oh, I'm so proud of you, I said, I hope, which you validated, is truth, that she also learned something, which is that she gets the right to do that as well.
Absolutely. Not only gets the right, but she learned how, because someone who she cares about and loves showed her how to do it.
Yeah, I didn't
yell at her.
I didn't get
right?
aggravated.
Nope. You taught her how to fish.
Yeah. I reiterated, so what you want me to do is X, Y, Z. When you hear that back, does that seem kind of like a big ask? Well, yeah. But, it was kind of like, well, but it's you. And you do those things. Was kind of but there was a pause. She reflected, and then it gave me a minute to slow down and without just saying yes, which is what I would want to do. And I paused, and then I just replied, this is the one time I'm going to say no. I have something important to do tonight. It's a big ask. It's a long drive. I've had a long day, and I'm going to say
and she
no.
was okay
and it's
with
not
it.
and I said, and it's not an emergency.
Yeah, and it's not an emergency. And
Yeah.
she received it so great.
She did.
I love you, Mom.
I love you, Mom. Thank you.
That's so great.
I mean, she did at first go, that's interesting. And I think because that was a shift for her, like, didn't even see that coming. Man, I was just expecting, sure, I'll get there as soon as I can. Which would be a typical response from me.
Yeah.
So I think it gave us both a minute to pause and reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did say that you were a drop of the hat mom.
Yes.
You'd do anything for your children.
Yes.
Try this on until now. See how that feels.
Until now. Yeah.
You still love your children. You just taught her a life skill.
Yeah.
And as a young adult, she will adjust and shift.
Well, I want her to, because she's also going through many shifts in her young life, and I want her to know, not just that she has the right to set her own boundaries, but I want her to learn how as well.
Yep.
It's important, and if I can be any part of teaching her that, then, it's a win for both of us.
Absolutely. Great job.
Thanks. So the healthy adult in relationships you mentioned earlier isn't just about intimate ones, although it's critical because usually they're the closest to us, so we want those to be right. But it can be with parents and children and colleagues, and I like what we just talked about in respect to my exchange. Definitely taught me something. It taught my daughter something. It taught us both how to do it. But that applies to all these other relationships. We're teaching each other how to respect each other's boundaries, which, when you think about it, how often does that really even get to happen? Think about work relationships and all the relationships we have with our parents and our families.
Often.
It's like, how often do we really take the time to pause? And I'm not saying going into it from I'm going to teach you how to do this. It's much more of I'm giving this to myself.
Yeah.
And if you get to learn that too, then that's awesome.
Right.
But it's almost like a
This
reminder.
is for me.
Yeah, it's a gift to yourself as well.
Yeah, so setting boundaries from our healthy adult is, I see you and I'm going to teach you how I want to be treated. So with parents, siblings, children, grandparents, teachers, coworkers, how you talk to me, it made me feel uncomfortable. Will you be mindful of saying it a different way, please? Boundaries are not, it doesn't have to be conflict.
It doesn't have to be ugly.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It literally, you come in with a generous, compassionate energy of, hey, it made me feel this way when you said that. Would you please not say that again? Well, yeah, of course. I care about you.
I think most people will.
Absolutely.
I don't think they realize, I think they either don't realize they did it or to the extent that they did it.
Yep. Most of the time they're so willing to receive.
Because people that love you, I have to believe, aren't sitting around with an agenda to hurt you.
Correct.
And we get an opportunity to turn that around, and maybe through them redirecting back at you, they get a great life skill too.
Yeah. One of the biggest boundaries I learned personally was touch. There's a lot of people that do not want touch.
And when we're huggers.
And when I'm a toucher, I had to learn that, hey, not everybody wants to be touched.
Yes.
So I've tried to be more conscious of,
may I give you a hug?
Yeah. How about a high five or a hand hug or a hug? Are you open for a hug? No. Okay. And I've caught myself just the other day giving someone a side hug, and I felt their constriction. I was like, I got to remember that one. They're not touchers, huggers.
Yeah.
And I owned it. like I want to own it and make
Yeah.
sure I'm conscious of that next time.
I have a couple people on my team that are not. And I'm always reminding myself, because I'm such a hugger, that it doesn't mean the same for them. It means the opposite for them. That's a boundary crossing,
Right.
which does not build trust with them.
Right.
It takes that away, which is so opposite of everything I believe in. So I also have to remind myself, don't go in for the hug. I always say, and my book signings are infamous for that. As most people are, if they've read the book, I can tell, because they start to walk up in the line with tears in their eyes.
Oh.
And I'll say, oh, you've read it. Yes. And then I ask, do you need a hug? Which they find funny, but most often they say yes, because it's triggered something in them.
Yeah.
Or they're feeling a deep level of empathy for me, but they're trying to, they're seeing me maybe for the first time, and they're like, oh, wow, you're that girl I just read about.
They've built that relationship, haven't they?
Yeah. And so asking them, do you need a hug, or would you like a hug? It's also about setting boundaries that I wasn't taught in my life, and so the book shows that maybe I've learned that in my own experience, and so that's what we do. We teach people that they have a right to say no to something.
Yes, I love that.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. When we're in our healthy adult with boundaries, a couple of key points is I wrote healthy boundaries, validating, again, either romantic relationships or coworkers. We're validating them. We're masterful listening to them, right? And we're patiently sitting and waiting until they're done. We're not interrupting. We're not cutting off. In fact, when you go in for a conversation, especially with a romantic partner, and I've really focused on this lately for my own personal journey, is to set the table of, hey, can we talk? Okay. And then you literally are bringing energy in. Maybe you get them a glass of water, or is there anything that you need so that you're comfortable, so that you're in a place to hear what I have to say? You're making effort to create this space of compassion, love, validation. And then they sit down and they're like, and you start saying, okay, so what you had to say, it hurt me, and would you mind saying it a different way? And if they're in their healthy adult, just like you're doing now, you're actively listening to me by nodding and using your voice. Okay. And now I'm feeling heard. I'm feeling validated. Now when I'm done, you can reiterate it back to me. If that's one of my love languages, is validation, is to hear it back. Then it really sinks in. Thank you for hearing me. Finally, you ask, is there anything you need from me? You know, I could just use a hug. You got it. And then we hug. And it doesn't take that long. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you need to sit and listen longer, then you can. But you're literally prepping the place to use masterful listening, validation in your relationship. Just being in the present moment is key. Phones in the other room, kids are out of the room. We're literally in this present moment having this conversation right here. Game changer. This has changed relationships just by listening, validating. And a lot of times you don't even know what you talk about at the end of the conversation. It's just feeling heard and seen. Something that we didn't get as children, right? And our nervous system is experiencing it in our healthy adult now with our partner.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, that's what that feels like.
I love it. I love it. I was reading some information you sent me about on the partners. Most of the time we find our partners from our adolescent phase. It doesn't mean we're adolescents, but I love that from our adolescent phase. It's been called the honeymoon phase or the hormonal haze. And it's anywhere from 6 to 12 months long.
Or longer for
Or
some
longer.
people. Yeah.
Things seem amazing, which it's true. It is hard to see the truth when things are just so perfect.
For that first 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But they go to hand you a big bouquet of red flags, and we see them as roses.
You know, somebody once said to me, it's a common phrase, but I hadn't heard it. Now I seem to hear it more often, but that if somebody shows you who they are, to believe them. And I remember the first time I heard it, I thought, that's a funny thing. And now I think about it a lot. If somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Because it's not about what they say, it's about what they do,
yes,
and who they are and how they are. And it's hard to be in that phase. It's hard to think like that when you are in that honeymoon or that adolescent phase of finding somebody. That I have a longtime friend that's a family therapist, and she always says that when you're young, opposites attract. And then when you're older, those opposites can attack. Right? Meaning
from attract to attack.
Yeah, because the things that you found exciting and enticing and all the things in the long-term goals of life, as we change, we can attack each other with those things. And I think that's really where the adolescent plays in, of not feeling heard during those years. They really needed to feel that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, off the air, we had talked about being able to navigate changing. And you said the line, I'm willing to commit to your changes. Can you commit to mine?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, relationships from our healthy adult, we understand that we're constantly growing and changing.
Yeah.
So necessary. If we're stagnant and we're not moving anywhere, we're in the ground. So we're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. Right? We're backpedaling, living in our past, or we're moving forward in our healthy adult. So when you show up into a relationship, it's so great to keep in mind, this person that I'm meeting now is going to be changing as well, moving forward, and I want to be there with them through their changes, through their evolvement. Or maybe I don't. And that's something that we get to decide, and that we're in clear communication about with our romantic partner. Even friendships, we can separate and we can outgrow friendships in a healthy way.
Yeah, true.
There's a lot of people that will grow faster than others. And if they're not okay to keep up with the pace of the growth, then that's okay. Times and seasons.
Yeah.
For relationships, friendships, co-workerships.
I love another saying I love it, that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Mm-hmm. I think the complication there is that you don't always know right away. Sometimes you do. You meet somebody, you think, oh, it's really cool that I met that person. They're not going to be in my life, and that's okay. But then sometimes you go down a path and you're in it. And it's easy to assume that person's going to be forever, because why would we not be friends forever, Coach Shanna? Why would we just not, right? But then there are relationships that ebb and flow. Like you and I met, I think about when we met, and there was an initial, oh my gosh, on both of our parts, we need to know this person. Mm-hmm. We were like down the hall, like, hey, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you back. Like we just kind of had this
energetic pull.
Yeah, there's
right?
like a friendship that's definitely going to happen, which did happen, and it's awesome. And then you leave that environment of where I get to see you on a regular basis, and there was kind of an unknown. And I remember thinking, every now and then, I wonder if I'll see Shanna again. Then when you get older, you start to question, I wonder if people will circle back in your life. And then we did, and we get to do great work together. But I think that it's hard to navigate what you don't know when you're in it.
Yeah, it can be. So this is what I would say to this. In our healthy adult is when we are in alignment with our higher selves and with our creator, our God, universe, the divine, whatever it is for you. When you are in the moment, the present moment, we're in alignment. And whatever happens outside of that is to be. If it's to find you, it will. If you grew a different direction than I did, who knows if we would, our frequencies would find each other again.
Yeah.
Who knows? But because the work that you've been doing, the work that I've been doing, our paths found each other again.
Yep.
Right? And we are vibrating very similarly on our journeys.
Yeah.
So staying in alignment is so key. And we can do that by slowing down. Again, staying curious.
Always the slow down.
It's so healthy to slow down. Just be.
I'm reading a book right now called, it's more of a little manual because it's just little, about being present. Be present, I think it's called. Be present. And it's written in a conversation between two friends. So that's how the book is written. Celeste says this, and then Shanna replies with this, and then so the whole book is written. It's very, very small, but it is very much driven around what you just said. That last statement. Do you remember what you just said?
Just be.
The whole book is driven around just being present, and it talks about slowing down, and they describe, the one gentleman describes it as literally slow down your steps, literally turn your phone upside down, which I do now because then I don't see when it lights up. Turn your phone upside down, like make very literal steps in your life that force you to slow down. Don't run to the restroom when you need to go to the restroom. Don't run to get that call. Intentionally find moments where, it doesn't mean you don't always have to be in a rush, or you don't ever have to be in a rush, but you don't always have to be in a rush.
Correct.
But we just get in that mindset that there's only so much time in a day.
Right.
And I got all these things to do.
Right.
They'll wait.
And it's okay.
I can promise you they're going to wait.
It's okay.
They're still going to be there tomorrow.
I want to try something with you right now. Are you open?
I'm open.
And if you're watching this, try this also, to slow down. This is what I'll do with some clients. Nice deep breath there, by the way. To slow down a hot nervous system, what we call a hot nervous system, or when you're in overload or you're constantly running. We'll literally have you put your feet on the floor. So I'm going to have you do this. As
That's
I say,
what you do when we have a session.
It is. It's so necessary to slow down, right? Our bodies have so many important messages for us. So this is to slow down when you need help slowing yourself down. So your feet are on the floor, your hands are in your lap.
Yep.
What I'm going to have you do is turn your head to the left and look at an object. The first object that comes to mind. What is that?
It's the remote on the table.
Yeah. Then come back. Then you're going to turn your head to the other direction. What object do you see?
My face on the cover of my book.
What colors do you see?
Red and gray and yellow.
Yeah, come back. Do you feel more present?
Yes, because you naturally, like, your distractions go away.
Yes. You're literally in the moment, right? It is scientifically, biologically, physically impossible to be in the present moment and have anxiety.
So do you believe then when people have anxiety, it is because they're not in the present?
Absolutely. In the adult chair model, we believe anxiety is future tripping, things that haven't happened yet. So our mind's going.
Future tripping.
What if, right?
Yeah.
Depression is things behind us in our past that won't let go because we keep them stuck in our minds. So anxiety is in the future, depression's behind us. What would happen if you're in the present moment? You can't have anxiety in the present moment.
That's a beautiful thought. I have friends that struggle so much with anxiety. And they, will say things to me. I know, like, your whole meditation thing just doesn't work for me. Like, meditation's just not for everyone. Like, yeah, but breathing is.
Mm-hmm. You have to be here with yourself to watch yourself breathe, take yourself through breath, right? Yeah, you can breathe unconsciously, but how's it feeling coming in and out of your nose? How's the air feeling in and out of your mouth? That is a state of meditation.
Yeah, like, can you feel when it comes out?
Yeah, anxiety is hard. It's hard for people that have literally suffered with it and have been stuck in it for so long. However, there's hope. There's answers.
Yeah.
I work with them on a daily basis.
The other day, Shane was telling me, he was with my daughter, Michaela, and so we both breathe out when we're slowing down. And sometimes we're doing it at the same time, like when we're meditating in the morning together. Sometimes it's because now it's a habit. One person will do it, and the other one will hear, and we know what it means. And so he did it, which is just a simple. He just let it out, and she looked at him and said, "My mom does that," because she hasn't seen us do it together. And he said, "Yeah, I know. That's a thing we do." And it's a slow down. So we'll get in the car to go drive somewhere. And now it's funny because, you get a little more in sync when you're with somebody.
Yes.
You just start to do each other's behaviors. And we both will do it right when we get in the car. There's an instant. We both just let it out. And then we kind of giggle like... Or sometimes the other one will say, "Thank you for that." Like, it's a kind of a reminder. Thank you for that.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's a good tool.
Also called co-regulation.
Co-regulation. I love that.
Yeah, if you can give someone a 30-second hug, they've said as quickly as 8 seconds. 8 to 30-second hug, your systems will co-regulate.
Well, think how quickly when you hug someone, it's usually so in and out. Yeah. So it's true. 8 seconds is a lot longer than you think it is.
It is.
You want to make sure that person's good with an 8-second hug.
And touch, make sure.
Yeah, if you get some permission there. Yeah. But as a couple in your partnerships, because even so, you can take for granted, how quickly you hug.
Yes.
Especially like the out the door or the quick kiss goodbye or all the things like when you realize you're going to go all day, sometimes 12 hours not seeing that person. And that's how you're going to end it as a quit, and how you're going to send them off is meaningful for us. That send off is meaningful.
Yeah.
Just as the greeting, stand up, get out of your chair. It's not a head nod. Hey.
Right.
It's a get up, stand up.
Yep. Slow down. Slow down and show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's all part of this conversation. It's those moments of I'm saying to you, I'm taking that time.
You're worth my time.
You are worth my time.
Yeah.
That's a good statement. I love the co-regulating. I never thought about that before. There really is kind of a nervous system check that happens with that. It's good.
That's how women sync up monthly when they hang out for periods of time.
I know. Everyone's like, how are you guys all on your menstrual cycle at the same time?
Yeah.
Our bodies know.
It's a thing.
If we don't have to do anything about that, by the way. It just happens.
It's a thing. Yep.
So there was something else that you said offline that I wanted to bring up, which is that not everyone has earned the right to know.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that statement when we're thinking about trust with people.
Yeah, it's vulnerable, right? Mm-hmm. Not everybody gets to hold your heart.
So I know, that's part of what you were going to talk about.
So how do we dialogue? This is going to go right into what you just said. Not everybody has earned that space with you. Even in family members, just because they're family, it's not their right to be in your space, right?
Yep.
How do we dialogue with our partners in a healthy way that creates healing in relationships? And what I jotted down was number 1, vulnerability. Vulnerability comes from our child chair, our child phase. Again, that's ages 0 to 6 years old. So vulnerable, no discernment. That's where our true feelings lie. In our inner children is in that age, right? So when you show up to a conversation and someone is like, hey, I need to chat with you, they're literally saying, I want you to hold my heart. Can I trust you not to drop it? Can I trust you not to stomp on
so
it?
big.
Scary.
When you hear it like that, it makes you feel like,
it's a lot of pressure, right? So that's vulnerability, right? And the second thing is being that masterful listener really builds that trust, how we started dialoguing earlier. Simply saying nothing at all says so much to the other person across from you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Simply saying nothing at all can say so much. Especially if you're like me and you're a chatter. We know what's interesting, though, is when I'm quiet, everybody asks me what's wrong. It's very interesting. What's wrong? Everything okay? Yeah, I'm just relaxing or just listening or just chilling.
So that's your executive director hat, though, right?
Yeah.
When
but
you're
even when
business.
I go home, I'm the matriarch of the home, right? I'm in charge. I'm usually the one making the plans. And
running
so
the
when
show.
I'm not, and I kind of just want to be off duty, and I just sit down, like, what are we doing? I mean, literally, are you okay?
Okay.
I'm great. Just going to be off duty for a minute, I always say. I'm just going to be off duty.
That's so great.
And it's me, again, it's about the boundaries. It's me learning to readjust, that I don't have to be the one to make the decisions all the time. I don't have to be the one talking all the time. I don't have to be the one enforcing something all the time. Celeste also gets to just be still, and I'm trying, as I teach myself, to teach those that love me around me.
How to treat you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge.
That I get the same thing. But you can't expect other people to understand that about you, or know that about you, or know how to treat you when you haven't taught them.
Correct. Say that again.
That's an unfair ask.
Say that again.
When you haven't, I'll say it the reverse, when you haven't taught somebody how you need to be treated, or how you deserve to be treated, or want to be treated, you can't expect them to treat you that way.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't even work that way.
Exactly. We need to teach
I don't know why at 51.
people.
I'm just getting this concept, but
well, again, you haven't known, right? Until now,
you
haven't
always say
known.
what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Everything about this model is so eye-opening and life-changing, because it's all about, you're learning skill sets, but it's all about what you're also teaching yourself that you're capable of, which is a really unique paradigm shift when you have spent a lifetime, and not just me, but I think a lot of people have, of not feeling heard for whatever their reasons, or whatever their life looked like. I think most people go into trying to have adult relationships not feeling heard.
Yep.
Something or someone has shut them down enough times that they haven't owned their voice yet. And so it's like, I'm trying to learn how to do that, and I'm trying to have the adult conversation with you, and I'm trying to teach you how to love or hear me, and I haven't figured it out yet, and it's just such a complicated
It can be.
circle.
Yeah, it can. That reminds me of a couple I just got done working with. We were in a couple session. So in my couple sessions, we work separately first, and then we work together, because we got to separate what's mine and what's yours, right? We were in the couple session together, and she was feeling unheard by him. He thought he was listening and validating, and so we set the scene up to talk about something that they had been playing trigger pong over. So I said, you guys set it up. I'm going to sit here and listen. So she starts saying how he was not hearing to what she had to say. Immediately immediately he's like, well, yeah, I did. And I said, no. Shh. Please just listen. What you have to say is important, but right now it's more important to just listen and hear her. So as she finished talking, I said, ask her if she's finished talking. He says, are you done? Very kindly, are you done? And she's looking around. She's like, yeah. And I said to him, say these words to her. It sounds like, and then repeat back to her what you heard. He did. He says, it sounds like you are upset when I come home late. I think it was something coming home late from work. She was doing all the work. He was getting home late and wouldn't help with the chores. And she says, yeah. So he said it exactly back to her in his words, the best that he could. But she felt heard because he repeated it back. And she's like, yeah. And I said to her, how does that make you feel? She says, I feel heard. That was it. Practicing listening. Practicing validating. Validating doesn't necessarily mean I agree with you. It means that I hear you.
Which is so important. I do think people sometimes misunderstand that.
Yeah.
Validating.
It is so important. Yeah. And so we got to role play for a minute, and it changed. They took that home as homework, and it changed their relationship. It was beautiful.
I love that. That's so good.
Practicing being adults, right? Healthy adults, because we're not taught how.
And I think part of that is you touched on a little bit, but I think there's the space you have to allow for that to happen. We're just trying. You see couples often trying to get the word in, their word in to be heard, or right, and we're using a lot of sarcasm, and we're trying to be funny and all the things, and so it's back and forth, and you're in the same house, but you're throwing things around at each other, and maybe there's people, maybe there's not people, but you're just kind of using those moments of trying to be heard by saying something, because the amount of work it takes to sit like we're sitting right now and having a real conversation, taking the deep breath, putting our feet on the ground, centering ourselves. It doesn't really take a long time, but it feels like it's going to set it up.
Because we're used to that speed, right?
Yeah. Like, oh, am I really going to take all that time? You mean you're really not going to take 5 minutes to set up a meaningful conversation?
5 minutes.
Because it's just a few minutes.
It is.
Even when you and I go into a session and we do the reset minute. Is that what we call it?
The transition minute?
I call it the reset minute. The transition minute.
I like that.
It's 1 minute, but it's long and short all at the same time. It's like it's long enough to make a difference to transition from what I'm doing to where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
But it's still short enough that once that minute hits, I'm like, oh, wow, we already ready? Are we on? I need a couple more minutes. And I think that's the same in setting up, conversations that are meaningful. Is what good advice is that, to set a few minutes to set the tone.
Is that loved one worth it?
Yeah.
Worth that time?
If the relationship you're getting ready to speak to isn't even worth that 5 minutes, I think that's a whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
Right? For both of you.
Yep, for both of you.
If we're both not willing to do this, and we're so irritated with even having to set up this moment of time.
Get curious about that.
It's a whole other podcast.
That's so great. Yeah, that's what that last bit was about, was literally setting it up.
Yeah.
So, what a great conversation today.
So good. Did you get what you needed?
I got what I needed.
I got what I needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have so much fun here.
It's a good time. And we'd like to thank Brad. He does all of our filming. He's with the Resiliency Network. Great guy. If you need any work, I'm just going to give him a little plug just because he's my friend. If you need any work done, he does so many things with his podcast, and I don't thank him enough. So I'm going to thank him right now and tell you to reach out to me if you want to get in touch with him. But or you can just throw his website on here too. But he's great, and he's so talented. He does so many things. So please use him, and he's affordable. There's that. We got that going for us. But really, thank you, my friend, for being here. These are always such healthy conversations, and you know, the point of doing the podcast for me at all of my podcasts are to remind people that we matter, and to take the time for ourselves and others. And when you mentioned earlier that, you know, our work is just so aligned, so hopefully we're lifetime friends.
I'm in.
But I'll take the reason too, because the reasons will always circle back. But thank you.
Yeah, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on the Garbage Bag Girl podcast. Always remember, you matter. Please subscribe and share this podcast, and visit CelesteEdmonds.com to join my mailing list.